wouldn't mind. There you go. I am going to call to order tonight's Board of Selectmen regular meeting for Monday, August 14th. We're starting this meeting at 7:02, and we're going to start with item 1, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to move on to item 2, public speak. Linda Fish, I'll start with you because your cat is doing such a good job calling out for some attention.
He's a cat with 9 lives. He almost died a month ago. But yeah, I have nothing to say.
Okay.
He's just looking for attention.
All right. Mike and Kathy Palazzi.
Just a minute, do you have anything?
No, we're all set.
I have something to say. I wanted to say, as the senior coordinator for our Andover seniors, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and Eric Anderson, our town administrator, for all the hard work and the diligent hard work that they did to get the community senior center building approved. The seniors are very excited and happy that we will see our groundbreaking ceremony Friday, the 18th. And we want to thank you very, very much for this. I think I probably nagged all the town officials for 24 years. So it finally is coming to fruition. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Diane Grenier.
I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Good. Oh, God. Technology is tough some days. I like to support everything Kathy just said. I think all the seniors in town, and probably everybody in town, actually, not just seniors, do that. I also, looking at the agenda, I had sent an email and asked that the discussion for the piano donation to the senior/community room be discussed tonight. So I was hoping that we could get a decision so that I can move forward and give the man a deposit or can it, whatever you guys are going to decide. But I'd like to see that on the agenda. So if somebody could put that on the agenda, hopefully, so it can be discussed. If you have any questions, I'm here. I sent a rather detailed email earlier. I hope you all got it. That I had spoken to most of you, if not all of you. Hopefully answered all your questions in advance. But again, I'm here to answer any questions if you have. And that's basically it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Bernard.
Nothing here, thanks.
Okay. Jerry Creme.
It's Ann Creme. I just couldn't figure out how to change the name, but I have nothing today. Thank you anyway.
Okay. Joanne Ebert.
I just want to say that I'm very excited for the groundbreaking coming up on Friday as well. I only got my sound working to hear Kathy and the last lady. And so I'm excited. Thank you. Sorry, long day. It's it's exciting for the town. Can't wait.
Okay. Catherine McGaldy Lewis.
Sorry, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. And Stephen. I don't have a last name. Okay. We'll take that as a no. And then Dennis O'Brien, I guess you're on the cell phone at the bottom. Okay. It is Dennis, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Diane.
I just wanted to say, I see that Catherine McGoldie Lewis is on the line here. I'd like to thank her and her committee for all the hard work for the 175th anniversary, all the events and things that happened. I think it went over really well and it was a great celebration for the town. Made Andover proud. So thank you, Catherine, and your committee.
All right.
Thank you, Diane.
I second that. There we go. So did I miss anyone on public speak? Anybody like to say anything else? All right, if not, we're going to move on to item 3, additions and deletions to the agenda. I have a few. If you guys don't mind, I'll go first. I'll do the easy one. I would motion that we delete item 4, the Burnap Brook lot line agreement discussion. And then I would like to add to the agenda an item, let's say, let's put these in 4. So since we're getting rid of that one, we'll go 4A, discussions regarding the AES upper parking lot paving. 4B, community center piano discussion. And 4C, Towns End Cemetery stump removal discussion. Anybody else?
I would like to add 4D, soccer goals down at Long Hill Memorial Field.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Is the Burnap Brook not ready for discussion yet?
No, we're not. I do not believe the group is truly prepared. There's a significant amount of disagreement among the parties. So.
So adding, can I just throw something out there as a thought?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have a lot to talk about tonight. Is there anything we can push to next month that's not time sensitive? Because we have a long executive session, so. Can we move anything that we added to next month?
That we added?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna retract that statement that I would not like to move the goal discussion because there's
Time.
something that's tied to it this month, so.
Well, I promise we'll go through these as quickly as I possibly can get through them.
Listen, I'm in no hurry. I'm just saying at a certain time, the brains start kind of getting a little foggy. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. So I'm just throwing that out there as a suggestion. And
50's coming at you quick, huh?
just remember, you're always older than me.
I'm already there.
I know.
I think if you wanted to shorten, you could certainly put off 11B, which is the personnel policy discussion. I honestly think that should almost be its own separate meeting. So you can have a real in-depth discussion of that. If you so chose.
Well, why don't we get to those and then just sit there and push them to the following month? Is that okay, Paul? Anything, Paul, anything you recommend push the next month, I am going to be in agreement with you. So that's 2 votes. So we only need to convince Scott or Adrian to go with us.
I have faith in you to push a short meeting, Jeff, so I'm going to vote no. I think we should just go with it.
Let's go. All right.
Okay.
All right. So we do have 5 items. So let's vote on deleting item 4, the Burnap Brook lot line agreement discussions. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So let's move to adding 4A, the AES upper parking lot paving, 4B, the community center piano discussion, 4C, the Towns End Cemetery stump removal, and 4D, the soccer goal discussion. I make a motion that we add all 4 of those items.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. 4-0. Okay. All right. So let's move on to item 4A, the AES upper parking lot paving discussion. As the board members are aware, I don't even want to go rehash this. Eric, I sent you some information this afternoon regarding the proposed document. Is the paving as currently constituted in agreement with what the town engineer and the director of public works requested from the contractor?
So to be honest, it's kind of hard to tell. One, it was a screenshot and I had trouble even reading what was in the screenshot. But I can go over that.
Well, how about we do this and we try to make this quick, because this is not just our board. I had a meeting with Jerry Kermay and Mark Brinker last week to discuss how this potentially can get done and what would work the best. And there are other boards that would have to sit there and weigh in on this, specifically the Board of Finance. So what was discussed was that we would utilize the new fund for this project. So the town administrator and the Board of Finance set up a new fund that any excess from the Board of Education could be used in to fund capital projects. This is a very quick use of that, but it is something, and here's my one caveat in what I had said to Jerry is, and I said this to Valerie in an email, is that the job needs to be performed in accordance with the specifications laid out by the Jay Tuttle, the Director of Public Works, and the town engineer who went and looked at the project, the potential project. So if it's done in that accordance, it is a project that is on Eric's list anyway to get done. It might not be in line to be the most useful project to get done at the school. It might be the better. I know I've spoken to other members. It might be better to do the lower parking lot, but it is a project that can get accomplished and we can get it done. And it is in the best interest of the town in my mind. So the discussion ended where if it's done in accordance with the engineer and the Department of Public Works, I have no problem with the project moving forward. And as I've said to everybody out there, I am only one vote on a Board of Selectmen. And all we need to do is sit there and say that we'll allow the permit, but then I believe, Eric, the Board of Finance really needs to vote to move the money to the fund. Is that accurate?
I believe that's accurate.
Okay, you believe that's accurate. Well, that's the way that we're going to proceed then, if you believe that it's accurate, because Mark Brinker was under the understanding that the Board of Finance had to approve that money moving there. Are there any issues, Eric, just so we're all aware from your end, if this gets executed and gets done, you're going to have issues. So talk to us about what you feel is the right thing to do.
Okay, so reading through the document you sent as best I could, because honestly I had difficulties actually reading it. But I think the difference is between what we had suggested in that document is the town is suggesting that we supply 3 basin tops, and all 3 of the basin tops that are there get replaced, which you have to remove the basin top whenever you do a reclamation anyway. And since the parking lot after reclamation should last about 30 years, there's no reason not to replace the basin top. So that's one. And the Public Works would supply the basin tops. The second thing is there didn't seem to be any mention of repairing and remortaring the basin where the pipe enters the basin, that kind of central one in the parking lot where there was a sinkhole previously this year that Public Works patched and that we know we need to fix. And there's no depth of reclamation specified. The last thing is they didn't appear to include any tack coating of the cold joint, specifically where the new paving meets the town road or in the back where it meets the sidewalk. But that's it would be a very small amount of tack coat. That should be a completely inconsequential cost. In terms of what we would normally do contracting, we would probably want to hold harmless against the town for the work that they're done. and some kind of indemnification clause. And there doesn't seem to be anything in there about performance bonding. So those would be my concerns. Now, with that, we're also making the assumption that the public works supervisor will be there to inspect and make sure that the pipe has been properly mortared prior to repaving. The town will have a monitor from Nathan Jacobson, monitor the pavement thickness during paving operations. And we will hire materials testing lab to measure soil compaction prior to paving, and then asphalt compaction during the actual job. And then lastly, Public Works will come in after it's finished and will backfill behind the curbing at the completion of the job. Because that was clearly not put in that was specifically excluded from what the contractor said they were going to do. So we would backfill with our loam mix and reseed with the standard seed mix for fast grass establishment. So with those things, I think that would be a project. It's a decent contractor. It's a project that could definitely go forward if y'all want to push it forward.
All right, so further discussion from the other members.
All those things you noted, Eric, are going to be put in the permit, conditions of the permit? Or in the contract?
I mean, my suggestion would be to just only sign a contract if the document references the specifications that we gave to the school board as what we would normally do. These are just basically our standard conditions for a reclamation job.
Okay, so do we have a reclamation specification? Do we have a compaction specification? And are we going to do cores?
So in other words, do cores before we reclaim? Or you're talking about cores after it's been paved?
After.
I would not assume we're going to do cores after. Normally what we do is we do two things. We have a little depth measuring gauge. So as they're putting the asphalt down, we're measuring the thickness that gets put down. And then at the same time, we know that, we know what standard compaction would be. And then we're following that up by having MTI do density testing on the material.
So I didn't realize you had site inspection as part of the contract, so.
No, that's not part of the contract. That's something that we're going to provide.
As long as we have site inspection, I don't need cores. But if we didn't, I would want cores, that's all.
Correct.
And everybody needs to be aware of that. That was something that Eric and Jay spoke of as having testing being done. And what was the engineering firm, M&T, Eric?
Nathan Jacobson. They're the engineering firm we're using for everything right now.
And they would be the one providing the site inspection and the testing?
They won't provide the testing because that's very specific equipment. We'll use Material Testing Inc.
That's
or
what I was
Material Testing Institute. They're out of Willimantic, so they're close. And they're good. That's who we've used in the past.
What's the timeline of events for all this stuff? Do we have any idea?
Well,
I mean, I think in terms of completing the project, this should be a maximum of a 5-day project from start to finish. Now that, bakes in essentially 1 day for bad weather. Reclamation should be done, in a day or less. So they're going to have about a half a day of prep work, and then about, then the reclamation can take place. And there's no reason they can't do the drainage work essentially at the same time. It's basically 1 day to grade and compact. And then we get the proctor out here who does the compaction testing. We'll have the results back for that the next morning. And presuming that's okay, they can pave the next day. So you can easily squeeze this in a week. You know, if we're ready to go. The only things that would be done that same week would be backfilling behind the curb. That would ordinarily be done, you know, like the following week, but that's not really time critical. You could do that a year later if you had to. It would just look like heck until you do it.
What about time frame for the non-project pieces? So do we have everything we need, or do we have everything we need for the permit to be approved?
So that is a good question. I would say I think we could approve the permit, but if the caveat still, what conditions are you holding them to? Are you holding them to all of the conditions outlined by the town engineer and road crew foreman? Or some subset of them, or what is it that, because it does not look like the contract included everything, but I mean, maybe this is just an abridged version. I haven't seen a full contract. I honestly really haven't seen much in the way of documentation for this yet. So I don't necessarily understand exactly what, I know the basics of what they're proposing, you know, the depth of asphalt, that it's going to be a reclamation job, but there's definitely some things that are missing from the documentation we have.
Well, did it even state the depth of reclamation?
The contract or the document Jeff shared with me a little bit ago did not. They originally had specified, I think, a 6-inch reclamation depth. And the public works foreman said he wanted to see at least 10 to 12. And
Okay.
there's a reason for that. And part of the reason is that they're going to have to lose some material. In other words, they're going to end up, because when you reclaim, you end up higher than the original grades unless you remove some of the excess material, right? Because you're taking the initial asphalt, you're grinding it up into the base, and then you're adding, you know, 3.5 inches on top of that.
Yeah.
So, and since we have specific grades we need to meet at stairwells and other things, there's going to have to be some material removed. By reclaiming it deeper, you can still remove some material and take advantage of the fact that you've ground that material into the subbase. So if that makes sense.
No, it does. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so technically, Eric, there should be an addendum to whatever contract the school has put forth right now.
Yeah, there needs to be at least an addendum to the contract that outlines the inspection, et cetera, as well as the clarification of depth, the repair specifications for the basin, you know.
Right, so
The set of specifications I shared with you and got sent to AES included that information.
No, I'm saying, but the contract needs to include that. The contractor, we need documentation, the contractor's aware of all this and acknowledges it. You know,
so I would ask that, and I will contact the superintendent tomorrow, but I would ask, we will, you know, if everyone is in agreement, I'll sit there and ask that an addendum to the contract is made to bring into a document that the contractor agrees with, meets all of the specs outlined by the town engineer and the director of public works. And
Yeah.
and if that occurs, then
Then it's approved.
and is it approved? I'm just asking this board that we're all okay with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that would be my take. I think what Scott's saying, you're okay with it, Scott, as long as
Yeah,
it's
I'm
in the
good.
contract, right?
Yeah, the addendum, yeah. We're approving it now with that, with the
With
addendum,
the addendum to the contract.
right?
Okay. And
So,
so then
Move forward.
I will sit there and I will talk to Valerie in the morning. And then I need to get with Mark Brinker because he needs to sit there and have, because technically the way that I believe it should go, and listen, I'm just going to, it's not the right way as far as I'm concerned. But we're going to put the money, it is the right way, but it is not done correctly. Let's put it that way. So we're going to put the money, we're going to move the money. The school is going to request that the money be moved into their capital improvement funds, and then we're authorizing a permit to be issued to spend money out of that fund. That's basically technically what we all need to agree to do. Anybody have any problem with that?
Again, as long as the contract has the specs, no.
As long as the contract has the specs.
And I just want clarity on this. I am authorized to sign off on the permit of this now in anticipation of the Board of Finance, or once the Board of Finance agrees to it. And
Once you have a contract that has that addendum
Approved by
approved,
the company.
that they've acknowledged.
Yeah.
And the Board of Finance says, okay, then sure.
okay, so then it would be me
Eric.
signing this contract and not the school, or I'm just trying to figure out how this works, so I know what my job is, because we're not, obviously not gonna have another Board of Selectmen meeting before this has to get executed.
So the Board of Finance has to weigh in, which I know. I mean, I'm hopeful that Mark has spoken to his members and that they understand what we're trying to do.
Well, Linda's on the board. Linda, have you heard anything from Mark? Can you unmute?
I've been having trouble with the computer and with my emails, so I haven't looked in the last couple of days. So Joanne's on the Board of Finance. Maybe she's gotten something.
Passing the buck. All right, Joanne.
Thank you, Linda. I do have information. I wanted to wait to be asked. Mark has reached out to us and did send a couple emails our way in anticipation of this. Unfortunately, I was away for 10 days and the first time I didn't check emails. So last week he had made us all, included us all in some emails that you all were talking about this. And, we had heard of it in prior meetings that they wanted to pave the parking lot and what they wanted to do. So yes, Mark has communicated with us. I got back on email this morning and started sending some out. We anticipate to possibly be asked for a special meeting this week. And Mark's not the only one that does have the knowledge. So thank you again for asking. I think as long as we follow along your guidelines that you set forth in this meeting this evening, we want to do what's best for the town and school too, but then have them follow the proper procedures as suggested in the future.
So let's sit there and make a motion that we authorize, I'll make a motion that we authorize Eric Anderson to issue a permit for the paving of the AES upper parking lot with the following conditions: that the contract, that an addendum to the current contract be made to include all specifications as outlined by the Director of Public Works and the town engineer, and that the Board of Finance approve via special meeting, a transfer of monies into the AES Capital Improvement Fund.
I'll second that.
Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 4-0. Let's move on to a 4B Community Center piano discussion. As everybody is aware, Diane Grenier has graciously offered to donate an upright piano to the new community center. The question is, and I honestly pass the buck to Paula, being our resident artist and musician on the Board of Selectmen, to identify spatially where it might go. I think personally, Diane, I think it's a great idea if it can fit, and it's really about fitting in the space. So Paula, what do you have to offer us on this one?
So I can speak to what I think it is as an instrument. I mean, I don't know I'm a visual person as far as understanding how it'll fit in a room. So it's hard for me to visualize something that hasn't been built yet. I think it'll get used. I think it'll be great. I can see that, the seniors will be using it, probably some in the future. Maybe the library will host some events with the music and movement class with little kids. So it's a very generous offer, Diane. I love it. I looked over what Diane said. She's done a lot of research on this, talked to a bunch of people as far as what kind of a piano to get. It's I haven't played this piano, but I know of the brand, and it's a great instrument. But I just wanted to hear from Adrian's been working on the spacing and how things will kind of look when everything's built. But my challenge is I just don't know how it'll look in the room or where we'll put it, because I'm spatially, I don't understand how the layout will be of the room. So I don't know if the conversations have started of what's going to be in the room. Adrian, what are your thoughts on that?
So the conversations really haven't started on that. I mean, the upside is that for once, we're actually going to have some storage to work with things that can be put away. In this case, I envision the piano kind of being out, which, in my conversations, Diane, was basically that I thought it would be important that I have a lock on it so that when we're having a town meeting or something like that, that you didn't have random kids on it, but otherwise you would, you could open it and leave it open for seniors or whatever events that would be appropriate, but for, events where you certainly don't want it to be a distraction for somebody, that you might just lock it. But I think it's certainly easy enough to find space for it. It's not tremendously big. It's an upright. It is movable. And the surfaces that we have would lead to being able to be moved around, I think, without too much of an issue. I still am trying to reach out to get a specification on the density of the floor in some of the traveling areas as to whether or not that the casters would be an issue. That was something that Jeff Murray had brought up. And unfortunately, I have not been successful in that yet.
Meaning the density, meaning it's going to leave marks.
Right.
Okay.
It could. So, we have carpet in some areas and we have like a linoleum type product in other areas. Right. And so it's depending upon the weight of this thing and the floor, whether or not that would be an issue. So I'm just trying to get a clarification. That was something Jess asked for. This, unfortunately, something I don't have tonight for us. So.
And Diane, I read your email. I forgot how you worded it. So after December 31st of this year, that quote goes away, or what?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My offer goes away.
Okay.
The way this is being funded is, as everybody knows, I'm Mrs. Claus. I visit lots of places. Zen's Tree Farm pays me very well for that. And on Christmas Day, he is going to write a check, and the check will go to the Piano Man, or I will send it someplace else. So there'll be no funding available after Christmas Day.
So here's my next question. Let's say we move ahead, we say yes. What if the building is not ready in time? Where do we put the piano?
The piano company is willing to store it until we're ready to accept it.
Okay,
And to answer Adrian's question about the lock, the piano guy is looking for a key for the keyboard. If not, there's a third-party mechanism that they commonly install to lock the keyboard. So the keyboard will be locked.
yep.
Hmm. Okay.
Do we know how much this weighs?
More than me.
That is not a polite question to ask, so we can't.
I have no idea how much it weighs.
Why are you asking that, Eric?
Well, I mean, I guess the question is it move, how easily is this thing movable?
Oh.
Can we get it from the upstairs to the downstairs and back if we decided we didn't want to store it upstairs?
I wouldn't think it's that kind of movable. It's on, it's the kind that you would have in a school, or a community room. It's got big casters on it, so it's easily moved around the room, but I don't think you're talking up and down floors. That would require a piano mover, which becomes expensive. Yeah.
Google tells us that uprights weigh between 500 and 1,000 pounds. So.
More than me.
Presumably.
And I think you said in your quote, they would come out and tune it how many tunings do we get?
They will tune it before it leaves the shop. And then it'll sit they'll deliver it. It'll sit in the environment for 30 days, and then they'll tune it at that point again, after it's adjusted to the environment.
Okay. So I think there was a question at some point about tuning. So we have some residents in town. I can't speak for them, but maybe some of our residents down the road will help us with some tunings. So just throwing that idea out there. So.
Okay, the tuning cost is like $180.
Yeah.
So it's not outrageous.
Yeah. Those were my questions. I was just, again, I love the idea. I know it'll get used. My thought is I don't know where we would put it. And I can't spatially visualize the room. So those are my thoughts, but.
So there's basically, Paul, there's two walls that it could work on in the large room. There's two walls that certainly could accommodate it.
Are they inside walls? I mean, we can put it on an
So
outside wall.
one inside wall and then one outside wall. Shouldn't be an issue.
Because an inside wall it won't have to be tuned as often on an inside wall.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, so I mean, again, the only, Jeff had asked about whether or not, let's say that we had something and we needed every bit of space, could we move that into the storage room, and would it going down those aisles be an issue? And I unfortunately just don't have an issue. I don't have an answer for that. If we're moving it around in the big room, I think we have no problem in there, that the carpet will take that all day. So,
Right.
Casters are set up for that, so.
Okay.
Diane, if we looked into that question, finding out about if the floor will be impacted, when does this quote kind of expire? Is it in a month, or I know you were hoping for tonight to have like a solid answer, but I was hoping that we answered that question that Jeff had about the floor, but Adrian just didn't get a chance to look into that.
Okay, the way it's working is he's a piano restorer, and it's when he gets a piano in, whatever. I've been working with him for a couple of months now, and he has the piano that I think is perfect for us. He's willing, I don't know how long he's willing to hold it. I mean, he's already been holding it, you know. If he sells it, you know, we're not, I'm not putting any money on it until you guys say, yeah, you want it. I'm not giving him a deposit. At that point, he'll hold it for us, but, so I don't know how long he's willing to.
I mean, Diane, I can't speak for anyone else. I'm in general in favor of this. You know, to your point, you know, when you discussed it with me that other community centers have a piano, it's kind of a common thing. I think it's kind of a cool thing. That may be my own personal take. Again, I do agree with Jeff, though. We do want to make sure that if we need to move it for whatever reason we can out of that space. So that would be my only ask, is you can give us a little bit of time just to get a hold of the a subcontract that's actually going to be doing the floor and get an answer for you, or get an answer back as far as whether or not that would be an issue with that type of floor. That's all.
Well, why can't we condition an approval tonight on the,
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, why don't we
Yeah.
vote based on getting that answer?
Okay.
And then this way, if when Diane gets that info or whoever shares it with us, then it won't hold up.
Well, I can just send it. I can send out an email to everyone. I'll CC Diane on that email once we have the information, if that's okay with Diane.
Yes.
if you have a motion there?
I do not, but I'll make a motion that we graciously accept local resident Diane Grenier's gift of an upright piano for the new community center.
Can we
I'll
amend
second.
that to say Mrs. Claus or?
No,
No,
I'll second that, Jeff.
Well, we're gonna put in, are we
Yeah.
putting in the, no pun intended, clause that we're gonna find out?
Yeah,
the
on that
answer?
condition.
Yeah, he said contingent on.
Okay, all right, sorry, my internet might have
You just
glitched.
wanted to say clause.
I did, I wanted to be cheeky, so.
okay.
And
Someone
hopefully, I
wants to-
assume that can be done relatively quickly, to get that answer.
They're a little busy this week, but I will have an answer, I would say, by the beginning of next week.
That would be fine. Okay.
Just, we got a bunch going on. We're trying to get ready for groundbreaking, fence going in, some other things, so.
Okay, who seconded that?
Scott did.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
4. Okay, Diane, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Thanks for all your research on that.
All right, 4C, the Towns End Cemetery stump removal. Eric, I know that there's some issues with the tree cutting at the cemetery. I'm not sure this is a voting issue or that, but is it on the agenda of something to get done and cleaned up?
So generally, the town, when it cuts trees in its right of way, does not grind the stumps. We remove them and we leave the stumps there. We had a request from a resident, Diane Grenier, to grind up the stumps for the trees that were cut there of several years ago in front of Townsend Cemetery. We can do that. It's just a question of, it's a precedent we don't necessarily want to set. But if you guys decide that it's important enough to do it because of the visual on the cemetery, we can do it.
But this isn't, I just want to clarify, this isn't a town-owned cemetery, right? This is a private cemetery?
Correct.
Okay.
But these are trees that we cut in our right of way that just visually impact the cemetery.
So when,
I went over there and met with Jay and Diane, and my final resting place is probably going to be in Townsend. I certainly would like it to look a lot better than it does. Those stumps over there look horrible.
So you're saying you're going to donate to pay for that?
I'm saying that is it reasonable to have the town pay for the stump removal?
If you do that, you're going to be removing stumps all over town on every private piece of property.
It's the final resting place.
It's not the
for-
point, Jeff.
It-
To Eric's point, we would be setting a precedent that private landowners can then come to us and we are
Yes.
going to remove their stumps.
It's on the town's property though, Adrian. You're misunderstanding it. It's not
No,
on the
no,
town.
what-
It's not on
what-
the.
It's not
what-
our
no, no, no,
property, it's a
Listen,
right of
listen,
way.
and we don't have to go. What Adrian is saying is if Jeff McGuire as the resident wanted
Right.
the stump ground in front of his house to be taken care of by the town after I could come and it's not a precedent. It's a cemetery. It's a different piece of land.
It's
And
not.
by
It's
the
a
way,
private
Adrian, by the
cemetery.
way, and no one from the cemetery committee came to us. Diane, please tell me you're not on the cemetery committee.
I am not on the cemetery,
You're not on
but
the
I
cemetery.
do own real estate in this,
And you
But-
do own
okay,
real
but do
estate
you
in
own
the
real estate
cemetery.
in the cemetery?
in a cemetery.
Right,
So
so
you're-
now she's involved.
Yeah.
But seriously, my concern is you are setting a precedent because it's not whether it's a cemetery or a church or whatever. It's the fact that it is a private landowner. The town does not run the cemetery. We don't own the cemetery. And we have rights of way all over town on every town road. We do not grind stumps on any town road. You're starting a precedent, and we don't even own a grinder, do we? We actually would have to sub that out or get it out there. It would be more appropriate if the cemetery, the group that runs the cemetery or the individual or whatever, I believe it's a board actually, they should be taking their resources that they make from selling the plots to then pay for the maintenance. And that would be a maintenance item that they would be responsible for. That is not something that the town is responsible for doing on private property. And I'm telling you, you are going to set a precedent and you're going to regret it. There are too many ash trees in this town, you know?
Well,
Those
So
were,
what
all those-
happens? What
all those
happens?
trees.
Let me,
Go ahead.
sorry, let me ask a question. This is probably obviously covered, but I have a tree on my property. The town comes and cuts it down. So the stump gets left even though
Yep.
it's the right of way?
Of course.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now,
We've done it 1,500 times in the last 3 years.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about one. We're talking about, or two in front of a cemetery. We're talking about how many? 1,500 in the last 3 years. And we're going to do at least another 1,500 in the years going forward as we keep addressing these ash trees, you know, and the birch trees and all the trees that are in danger of causing a problem. They're in the right of way. We cut the tree for safety's sake. The town covers the cost of the cutting, right? But as soon as you start grinding somebody's, you're going to be grinding everybody's. You know?
And Scott, you're saying, I mean, for the record, Scott, I hope your resting place is very far down the road in many, many years. All of you.
no, I think she just said that because she's the youngest.
That too, yes. So, but Scott, so can you explain to me a little more why you think that even though it's a right of way, that the town should take care of it as far as the stump grinding?
It looks awful. You gotta go drive by there, Paula, and you, Adrian, too. Go
I-
by
I
and
drive by there. I drive by there all
Look
the time. I made a point to look
It
at it when
looks
I drove
awful.
over to. I
Okay,
drove
I
over
think
to
we
Lake on
all,
Saturday and
looks awful.
that, I don't think that's
that's not the
argument.
criteria though.
Yeah, I think we all agree that it could look better. But I'm kind of, I see what Adrian's saying. It's just, I see both sides of it, but I think Adrian's right. It's just gonna open up a can of worms.
The only issue is that I personally don't look at that piece of land as private property. I understand Adrian's correct, and technically he's correct.
They don't give those lots away, Jeff. They sell them,
Mhm.
right? Scott,
That
you
is
paid for yours.
the truth. That
Scott,
is
you
the
paid for
truth.
yours, right? And and whatever their price to set is supposed to be put away for maintenance and those types of things, and to pay for this type of maintenance item, you know, and pay for cleaning up the cemetery and you know, and that is the concern. So.
Well, Scott, this is one of those things. It's been how many years since those stumps have been there?
3.
at least?
2 to 3.
Okay. Let's put this one off till next month and talk about it again. I would like to sit there and speak directly to Attorney O'Brien about something related to it, just to understand what's the possibility. So Diane and Scott, this is not going to hurt you if we put it off for 30 days. So I think that's what we should do.
And
Right.
in the interim, what's gonna happen?
You can't die for 30 days.
Yeah.
Basically, you're not allowed to pass for at least 30 days until Jeff gets his plan in place to finagle this. But in the meantime, stay healthy.
Did you just say finagle this? Wow.
Mhm.
Oh my God. I don't know if you know this, but I'm being cremated. And if I had my way, I'd go to New Orleans and go into one of those crypts and have them cremate me that way.
Are you suggesting you want a crypt in Andover now?
Oh, no, I see. It doesn't get hot enough in Andover, but with global warming, Adrian, maybe it will. So,
You
I
mean
told
you
my
wanna
wife
be
to get
sprinkled
fish.
on the lake?
I told my wife to get fish and feed me to them. You know how you sprinkle things in the fish thing every day?
if the Lake Association would let me do the Darth Vader pyre, I would, right? You could burn me
On
right
the
in
beach?
lake. That'd be good.
All right, so
Diane,
so
I'd be
we're gonna
feeding
put this
you
off.
off,
We're gonna put this
Diane.
off for a month.
Yes.
Moving on.
Okay, 4D
Paula
soccer.
has a time frame.
Soccer goal discussion. I know we're killing it on 4. Soccer goal discussion. Paula.
Okay, so there are 2 soccer goals down at Long Hill Memorial Field that were used once upon a time. They have met their lifespan and they are off to the side, not being used anymore. The nets are a little beat up, and the organization that's renting the field uses their own soccer nets down there, their goals. So unfortunately Jeff Murray's not on the call, but he had an idea that he spoke to me about. That we originally talked about this in a meeting with Eric, Scott, and I, and the individual that's down at the field using the field, and we were gonna take down the nets and get rid of them, but Scott's thinking there's some life in them, and Jeff Murray suggested that we auction them off to anybody in the public that would like to buy them, and then donate the money to the seniors. Are having a tag sale coming up in August. So that was that was an idea that Jeff had, that we can give the money to seniors and offer the goals up to anybody in the public that would like them.
So Paula, please make a motion to that.
I make a motion that we auction off the soccer goals down at Long Hill Memorial Field, and the proceeds go to the senior tag sale in August.
I'll
So we're
second
gonna
that.
auction them at the tag sale?
Yeah.
Clarification.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All those in
All's
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Good God.
4D was good. 5, treasurer's report. The new report was put into our packet. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything? It was July's information.
Nope.
Eric, just a side note, were all the bank accounts reconciled?
They were reconciled through last year. They're not, I don't think July's has been reconciled yet.
Okay. It would be quick to have July reconciled, but June is reconciled.
As far as I understand, June is reconciled.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Is that like a record, Jeff? Getting those things done that quickly?
Well, having June done is definitely
Phenomenal, right?
if it's all done. I mean, it would be great. July, the July statements probably came a week ago. It would be nice if they were done, but I can understand why they're not.
I think it's QuickBooks slowing them down.
Yes, I agree, 100%. Anybody have any questions for Eric on the treasurer's report?
So related to that, I have just a couple quick things. The last tally the treasurer gave me was in total between our what money we brought in revenue and what expenses we had. It looks like we were in the black on the town side, not including the school, for around $270,000. Now, there will be some smaller expenses that are still rolling in that, we haven't accounted for, but we're well in the black overall for last year. So,
And Eric, I just want to say, excellent job on managing the budget. Kudos to you on that.
thank you. Appreciated. And the second thing I wanted to talk about real quickly is that I think both the finance person and the treasurer are getting incredibly frustrated with Prime Pay. And both of them are advocating for switching to another payroll service, potentially QuickBooks payroll service, and doing payroll that way, because they're struggling mightily to get Prime Pay to line up to what the town is actually doing. And I know it's just chewing up a lot more time than it should. We are managing to make it work, but it's certainly not working well. And given that we're paying them $7,000 or $8,000 a year, it should work flawlessly, and it does not.
The only thing I would ask, Eric, is is there a QuickBooks program that will work with the electronic?
That is what we're looking at now. The caveat I had with that is that if we do it, we're going to do it with, a similar verification method, fingerprint verification method to what we have today for the majority of employees.
Okay.
And the treasurer said if we're going to do it, she wants to do the cutover at the end of the first quarter. Basically,
I'd be in favor of that. I was never a fan of Prime Pay to start with. So I'd be in favor.
Why, if you're gonna make a move, why aren't you just making the move January 1st? I mean, it's August 14th now. You have a full quarter.
Well, no, the quarter would be the end of September.
No, I understand, but Eric said first quarter. I don't understand that. What I'm saying is, are you talking the first quarter for us, the September 30th?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Then they don't have to deal with it
I
for
thought-
an extra 6 months.
No, because payroll's a calendar year, Adrian. I was thinking he meant first quarter next year.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I was assuming we were talking about doing this as of
September
basically,
30th.
October 1.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to do is bring your attention to in the packet. We also gave a list of all the town grants or all the state and federal funding that the town has received, both on the on the town side and the Board of Ed side. We get that fiscal list once a year, so we included that in your packet. So if you can look through that, and if you have any questions, you can ask me offline. But that should encompass all the money that the town got in the last year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Eric on this? All right, item 6, boards and commission presentations. Eric, do we have any? I didn't see anything in the packet.
The only thing that was there, not for that, we had for appointments. Which technically is 6A, if you want to see what they asked for.
Okay, so we'll sit there and talk about the appointments that are in the package. It's Brad Keeley would like to be appointed to the Library Commission, and Ellen Rapay would like to be appointed to the Norton Commission as an alternate. Have these gone to the various boards?
I honestly don't have the answer to that question. I assumed in most cases, these were appointments that came from the boards, but I could be completely wrong in that.
Okay, so
Diane says I'm
Diane
completely wrong
Brenner's
in that.
shaking her head. So Diane, since I believe you're on both of them, if you could sit there and we'll put these off till next month. And Diane, I would like you to sit there and we'll talk to you about these too. And I know the library commission is probably full, but maybe you could need an alternate as well.
Can I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
James, thank you. Linda's also on the library board with me. This is, what's his name, Brian? It has not been brought to the library board. Just the first I hear of it. And we have an alternate position that's open on the library board. That's the only position. I am no longer on the Norton Commission, so I don't know anything about the Norton Commission anymore, what they have open. But my other question about appointments while you're there is, who notifies people that they've been appointed? I believe that I've been appointed to the, reappointed to the library board. I never received any notification that says that you appointed me.
Okay, well, listen, you're not in public speak right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So I got to get Paula out of here. So we're going to sit there and come back to that. Thank you for bringing that up, and we will sit there and we'll talk about that. Eric, if you could you transfer the letters for Brad and for Ellen to the appropriate chairperson? And let's sit there and just make them aware, because I have no problem appointing any volunteer to any position for anything that they want to do, because it's the hardest thing to sit there and get people involved and to be able to do things. So if you could, I do think it's better for these types of requests to go to the board chairperson so that they can vet the individuals and then sit there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So if you could do that, that would be great, Eric. Okay. Item 7, appointments. I didn't think I saw anything. So we're going to move on to, I didn't see item 8, resignations. So we're going to move on to item 9, which is the town administrator report. And since he was on vacation, it will be short.
Hang on a sec. We did receive.
Oh, we did receive a resignation.
Catherine McGaldy Lewis resigned from the Andover Economic Development Commission as of Friday, August 11th. She sent it to that effect.
And I know Catherine is on this phone call. Catherine, thank you very much for everything that you've ever done. I realize we as a small town of Andover never get as much done as we should, but we do appreciate everything that you've done in the past. And the 175th anniversary was extremely successful. That committee was well run, and we appreciate all your efforts. Now, Eric, we'll move on to item 9, which is your report.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds. So I did send my report out to all of you, but I did send it late. So I apologize for that. That whole vacation thing got in the way. As far as town hall operations, the only thing I wanted to say is Willie Bell has been working kind of long-term on the library, repointing all the windows because that desperately needed it. So that's coming along well and looking really good. From the administrator's office on August 3rd, I was asked to and walked a property located off of Skinner Hill Road that is being acquired by Joshua's Trust. This was land that the town had taken for open space, and it was originally administered by the Mohegan Land Trust, who didn't really want it, so they transferred it to the Manchester Land Trust, who didn't really want it, who transferred it to Joshua's Trust. So Joshua's Trust is one of the largest land conservation groups in the area. They do not really have a presence in Andover, and they'd approached the town more than a year ago stating that we were one of the towns that they didn't have a presence in, that they wanted one. So this fits into their goals very well. The new president of the land trust asked me to go on the sidewalk and asked how the land trust and the town could start working together. So one of the problems with their property is they have a very narrow access way into their property. It's essentially like a rear lot. But it abuts right up to the open space that the town of Andover has for the Route 6 corridor expansion. So what they would like to do is have the president come into the next Board of Selectmen meeting and just basically talk to the board about whether whether Joshua's Trust and the town can collaborate on establishing a parking area up there. And a loop trail that would encompass both the town's property and Joshua's Trust. So I think that's definitely a discussion worth having. The other thing I would note is that the town's property is full of junk. It was a dumping ground, probably for I forget the guy's name. That was a big contractor. There's probably 300 or 400 old car tires on the property. There's a couple old vehicles, a bunch of car parts, some empty barrels, and a bunch of other stuff. So Joshua's Trust has the manpower. Part of what they would agree to do if they were doing this would be to manage a cleanup. And maybe, they supply the labor and we supply a couple of dumpsters for them to throw it in, or get rid of the tires through our, contract for getting rid of tires. Anyway, that's the conversation that they would like to have with them. And if you guys are willing, I will schedule them to be at our next meeting to discuss.
Well, I mean, do they really need to be at a meeting? Can you just get a formal proposal from them as to what they would like from us, and we can just move forward?
Well, I mean, so I think it will get some opposition from the Board of Selectmen. So I think you ought to discuss that openly.
Why are you concerned about opposition?
Because the last time a loop trail was proposed there was some strong opposition from the Board of Selectmen to it. So they're proposing something that you all had already rejected. So that's why I think you're better off dealing with them directly rather than them coming up with a proposal. That's my take on it. If you want to proceed some other way, I certainly have a good, rapport with their president, so I could bring
Eric, please ask him to come to the next meeting and we'll give him 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. Perfect. We did sign the RFP for the fire truck. So that was good. We got that done and out of the way. As most of you know, we got the state local bridge grant. So it's a 50% match from the state for replacing the bridge on Long Hill Road, or the culvert on Long Hill Road by Bastola. So that was good. There were
That's not on Long Hill Road, right?
I mean, sorry, Lake Road, sorry.
There you go.
So for the record, there were 58 grant applications submitted, and we were one of 18 that got accepted. So I appreciate all the work from Nathan Jacobson in putting that together. And looking at it, about a third of the ones that got accepted were theirs. So their success rate in getting through the program is considerably higher, which is part of the reason we hired them in the beginning.
Potential cost for the town?
Potential cost for the town, realistically, $750,000, something like that. So that will have to go to town meeting before it can be it can be formally approved. But we have basically 18 months before we sign essentially the next contract with the state, which would be the full-blown design proposal. So we do have to go to a town meeting to approve, because it takes a town match. We have, $350,000 of that already in the culvert fund designated for that. So, and it probably would be 2 years before we start construction. So we've got at least one more budget season to collect money before that. So we should be able to do it without it being a really big hit to the public. Still expensive though.
Project cost was 982. Did I read that right? 982,000?
No, that is under their formula. So what they always do is, just to be on the safe side, they ask for the maximum per the state's formula. So they get the full grant amount. And then whatever the actual costs are for the bridge, the replacement cost, the state will pay for half of the replacement cost, including the cost of all the design and engineering work that goes into it. Like, for instance, per the state's formula, they were allowed to ask for essentially up to $200,000 for design costs. But Nathan Jacobson submitted a proposal to us for about $128,000 for that. So right there, it would be around $70,000 less than was in the original proposal. So we're gonna have to figure out how we want to go about doing that and selecting a contractor. We're not ready to do that yet, but we need to start thinking about that fairly quickly.
As we go to, obviously it's great that we got this, Eric, but I really do believe, and I've had conversations with you before, we got to outline the entire cost potential to the town for the various projects that you have out there, because this is going to be something that this board and future boards are going to have to deal with for a long time, to sit there and try to get all of the projects that are required to get accomplished within our community done. So I do think everyone should be aware of it, so that a bill like this of $750,000, while expensive, is necessary, and people need to be aware that this is the tip of the iceberg. So.
Yep.
Well, I mean, so we should be thinking about that as we move forward in our funding priorities for next year, that
Right.
we need to be focusing on putting those dollars away. We picked off some other big things. So, this needs to be our priority now, To that end, Eric, when you start putting together the budget, I know it's a little early, but I know you start thinking about these things early. If you can give us a summary as to where we are on the roads, accomplished versus what we have left, big dollar things, that may make it a little easier for us to look at, priority dollars at least from the selectmen's budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That's a good ask. It'll take me a while. So as I said previously, we did not get the rec trails grant for the study along Route 316 for the pedestrian connection. However, we did get $100,000 for congressional authorization for that. That was largely thanks to MD Rahman really pulled for us for the town. We still got to wait for it to get through the bond process, but at some point in the next 6 months, we should have that funding available to do the study and design work for connection. So that's good. Transfer stations running moderately smoothly. Definitely got a few complaints here and there, but no more than normal. No major changes in assessor's office or social services. Most of the situations that we've had related to evictions have been resolved. So we don't have anything majorly running through that. Finance office, as you all know, the audit is complete and submitted. We are talking about switching to the QuickBooks payroll service. I sent some information very late today to the board from the building official for how he normally evaluates jobs to figure out how to cost them appropriately for the town. So that I think we can handle offline. I know Adrian will want to weigh in on that, maybe some other people. So what I would hope to do is have a proposal back for that, fairly quickly. Basically, what he has done in Avon is he hasn't actually published what his minimum figures per unit. So he makes the contractors give them, their evaluation of what the costs are, but then he applies the formulas himself. And if he comes up with a number higher than what they gave, he just sends them a supplemental bill. And I think we can institute the same thing here in the Andover.
Eric, I actually emailed you back on that. Some of his numbers I think are really low, even on the mins, even
Okay.
just compared to other towns. So is it possible to maybe set up a meeting so maybe you and I can meet with him to discuss some of those numbers?
Sure.
I
not a
just want to
problem.
make sure that I'm not looking at it the wrong way if he has a specific reason why those numbers are low, So,
Yeah, understood. Not a problem. I figured you'd want to be part of that conversation.
yeah, I mean, just like off the top of my head, the roof number is ridiculously low. Just material would be triple that number for a min. Just material, not including labor. So,
Okay.
you know,
I don't have a dog in the hunt, so I'm happy
Yeah.
to set that wherever that you all think is appropriate.
I like Adrian's numbers.
I'm sure you do. Right up until the time it's, you have to pull a permit, then nobody likes the numbers. But that's life. So I don't have an update for the zoning enforcement actions for you this month. But that's because the zoning agents just came back today from 2 weeks away on vacation. We're still going to be dealing with 664 Route 6 for quite some time. But we are, grinding away on that. And you can
how's the training going for the tax collector?
that is going well. I think that is going to be good. And she was able to register for the fall class series or the next class series,
Even better.
which fills up very fast. So she was basically ready to go 8 o'clock this morning, ready to sign up as soon as they open registrations, and she got it because that usually fills up, the first day it's open.
Are we looking for those opportunities for like the assistant clerk as well? This is Carol on top of that. And is there anything in the building department that, that might be helpful for her as far as training opportunities? Or I know Chaponis normally takes care of it with the assessor's office, but given that we don't have a supervisor really downstairs, I don't know if there's anything for the building secretary that might be helpful. So.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that would be, I will think about that. I mean, we certainly go back and forth with the stuff for the T2 training center for public works from time to time when stuff comes up, which their guys, in fact, I just emailed Jay and said I thought we should send at least one guy through their, basic like surveying, how to do job surveying stuff today. I am always looking for, employee training opportunities as they come up. I hadn't really got involved in anything with Carol's office. But that's something I should probably look into.
Given the number of trees and stuff we're doing, are we, and we do have a bunch of newer guys. Maybe we should be talking to like Beaverbrook or one of the other arborist groups that do training. And see if we can get our guys and, just a, kind of a reminder safety class or something, or, a dropping program. Especially as we start getting into these ash trees even more, so.
Well, what I would say is that if you look at the guys on the crew, probably only one of them doesn't have very significant tree removal experience. So I'd be less concerned about that.
Okay.
Personally, but
I think Adrian's point more is any training that can be made available to town employees to improve their skills would be
Right.
possible.
Right. And there's a difference between
Don't-
having
don't just-
experience taking down trees and having experience taking down trees safely. So.
That's a good point.
Any opportunity, Eric, that you believe can be made available at a reasonable cost and not take them away from their jobs for a significant portion of time would be positive.
Yep, understood.
What
Understood.
else, what else we got?
So chip sealing should start fairly shortly. There is a bunch of ongoing drainage work. Things have gone a lot slower. We have had some storm stuff to deal with ongoing for the past month. And we've had to deal with several catch basin replacements on roads we weren't really anticipating, but the catch basins were failing. We did one on Webster. There's one going on at Lake Road right now. There's been a couple others. So there's been a lot of little things that we've kind of chewed up time on that we didn't really anticipate. I spoke to Jay this morning. We are going to get back to working on more of a debris management plan for the town for catastrophic events. That really became obvious to me, that we're going to need a catastrophic plan for the town. Having, just vacation in Vermont and looked at some of the devastation in the roads there and how badly they got pummeled. It's really sobering to think how badly you can get wiped out in such a short period of time. So I think we're probably going to go back to pursuing essentially a catastrophic management plan with both Ashbrit and another company called Tetra Tech, who does essentially emergency management services during natural disasters. So the next thing is I went to the Bunker Hill Bridge Design, the 70% bridge design meeting. Couple things that became issues. One, they are going to have to relocate utilities to the upstream side, and they're working on negotiating with the property owners over easements for that. Those will be temporary. There are some additional complications based on threatened species in the area, but they've worked through with Hank Werner how to address those and keep the project on track. There's also been some coordination between us and the state because Coventry also has a federal or state local bridge program approval for a bridge on the other end of that road. And obviously we can't do them both in the same season because then everybody would have to swim to work and they'd be pissed. So we don't want to do that. The other thing we discussed with the state is how much the town had to hold as a reserve to pay the contractors between the time the bills came due and the time we can get reimbursed by the state and federal government, because we're going to get reimbursed by both entities separately. We were kind of doing the math. The biggest single bill we'll get will be when they bring in the precast bridge decks, which are estimated to be somewhere just north of $400,000 for that project. So we have to be able to accommodate for a short time, say 6 weeks or so, one large bill somewhere in the $800,000 range, which is more than we have in that fund. But the assumption is we would take that from the town general fund and just reimburse ourselves. We have plenty of cash to be able to do that. But I'm just giving you a heads up that that will be an issue when we get to that point.
Have you considered talking, now that we know we've got a surplus that came through, rather than dumping that in the general fund, have you considered talking to Board of Finance about transferring those monies into maybe the culvert or bridge fund?
I was planning on talking to Board of Finance about reallocating some funds, that being one of them, that being one of the priorities. Yes.
Okay, what was the other one?
So we never did close out the old library fund, so that's sitting out there in the ether, and that can be reallocated because we're not using it. So and we had agreed both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance had agreed to roll that into other projects. The money just never got moved. So I'm gonna ask the Board of Finance, and the new treasurer is not gonna move it without some sort of new resolution by the Board of Finance to do that. So that's the other one that I.
That
think
was,
we
that was
can-
for a library building, correct?
Correct, correct. Let's see.
So just so we're clear, Eric, so you're gonna go and ask about moving X amount of dollars. Do you have a dollar amount into those funds?
I was thinking about moving, trying for somewhere around 150,000, something like that.
Well, you had said you have close to 270. Why wouldn't you go more than that?
We could.
I mean, we know we have enough money in the general fund, and this is something I know I personally dealt with when I was on the Board of Finance, is that the town got in the habit of taxing taxpayers, and then when the money was extra at the end of the year, they would just roll it into the general fund. And then the general fund gets built up too high, and then you have to start spending it off. So it makes
Well-
better sense to ask the Board of Finance to put it where we know we need it. You know?
But the Board of Finance has been annually reducing the taxation by taking the excess from the general fund and applying that to the annual budget.
I didn't think they did that this past year. I thought they anticipated 100,000 or something.
We didn't this past year, because we didn't have any to transfer. We did in years past,
Mhm.
transfer, 1 to 300,000, depending
Right.
on what we end up.
Eric, I'm with Adrian. Move as much of the money as you possibly can into the bridge and culvert or road work.
Yeah, I mean, we know that's where we need it. Also, I mean, especially road work, even if you split it between the two or something. And that means that we can go, instead of us taxing again,
Right.
we can go back and it lowers it pre-lowers the number we need. So
Or tree removal.
Right, in this case, I think I would have asked to put it in bridge and culvert fund.
Okay.
I assume
yeah.
everybody knows by now the special permit application for the community center is done and dusted. The Mylars have been signed and filed. We know groundbreaking starts at noon on Friday, so we're finally at that point. The
Thought it was
fencing-
11 on Friday. Pretty sure.
no, 11. I didn't think it was 11. I thought it was noon.
That's when the lunch is. Where's
Pretty sure it was at noon with lunch to follow.
I
It's
mean,
not gonna
literally
be an
that's
hour.
literally that is what got sent out. So
Right.
if it
No,
wasn't, it is now.
The
So-
intention was to do that at noon. That's when we have everybody. And
It's
I'll-
on the website at noon.
Yes.
It's not gonna be an hour. I mean, this should be a quick thing.
Right.
It's a photo opportunity and it's a quiet celebration, but it's not, 15 minutes and move on.
Paula, on that point, I am not going to be able to attend. And as always, anyway, you're the most photogenic, so please be a front and center. Can you do
Well,
that?
I'm so tall, I don't know if I can accommodate that request.
Well, your
So-
vice selectman will be standing right behind you, holding you up. So you can be in the photo.
There you
I
go.
will try my best.
I was gonna say something snarky, but I'm choosing not to. Discretion being the better.
Oh my
part.
God, Eric, did you just say that?
I did. And it was good too, but.
He did that, he saved the town money and he took a vacation. He is batting 1,000 this month.
Wow.
So we all know that the senior vehicle, we have it in place. The RAV4 is working out well. We still need to put lettering on that, but it's good. We are officially getting rid of the big bus in 16 more days. And we will say goodbye to it for a life well served. The handicapped accessible spot at the walking track at the Veterans Field is in. And the spot for that is paved. We're just waiting line striping for that. We still don't know about the trip grant. DOT, as far as I know, has not said it, has not made any decision about that whatsoever, which is kind of crazy. And I threw in the back of my packet a couple pictures of how bad erosion can get on roads. It was pretty freaking amazing, actually, to see how much damage that the state of Vermont took in that. There was a stellar shot of Bill Penn cycling across the country. Good job to Bill, even though he did wear a really stupid looking hat. We still have a chicken loose at the Long Hill field, but he doesn't seem to be messing up the field. So more power to him. The community garden's going great. We got the bench in and donated on the rail trail with the money from Ken Platt of Platt Timing Systems. And there's a little plaque next to it that says bench donated by Ken Platt of Platt Timing Systems. And I threw in the packet a couple pictures of some of the junk that is sitting on the town property that was given to the town as part of the right-of-way for the Route 6. So you can look at some of the stuff that we need to get rid of off our property. And
That stuff
hopefully-
is down by Brown's house, Eric.
I don't know who Brown is.
Brown's was down by Cromie Walton's place.
Did you just say Crummy Waltons?
Yeah, Cromie.
Oh, I'm like, is that a nickname?
No, I think it's the other direct. I think it's, I don't think it's there.
It's
Oh.
down by Jeff Murray's end.
No, it's on this end. It's on the Skinner Hill Road end of it. It's not in very far. It's basically just past the real thick portions.
I saw it and it's right behind Brown's house.
Okay, I don't know who Brown is, so that's not a reference. I mean, if-
Mr. Brown has a plot at Townsend Center, guaranteed, guaranteed.
Yeah,
All right. Eric, are you done?
that's it. That's me.
Anybody
Oh,
have?
Eric, I have a question for you about the Steiner mower repair.
Yep.
What is the mower, the motor for that readily available?
The last I looked, it was back ordered. We could get one in about 3 months if we ordered it. But it's a 23+ year-old mower. So to me, it's probably hit its useful life. We probably ought to just replace the damn thing and get a new one.
A new one is like 30,000 for that Steiner.
Yep.
Do we need a Steiner? Because I know we talked a while back about possibly doing an upgraded tractor with a joystick control and have it on the front instead of mid mower.
So what we're talking about is, so let's talk about what we use the Steiner for. The Steiner is the only thing we have right now that can do a good job of mowing, like a lawn or something that we want to look decent. We would probably, if we replaced it, we would probably additionally buy the mower head for that, for doing fine mowing. And then we would also buy the style for, clearing and doing kind of rough mowing. Because before they blew it, they were experimenting with using that to mow the rail trail, because they can mow the rail trail a lot faster with that than the regular boom flail mower. So just get a smaller front mounted flail mower for it. And then the other thing we need that for is that's what we use for, we've got a big blower attachment for it. So we use that for blowing off the roads prior to chip seal and after storms and blowing off the rail trails. So that's kind of why we were looking at probably going back with the Steiner. And when we really look at what the cost of a full-size mower is, they're kind of stupidly expensive. And I don't think there's enough room in their budget to afford one of those things in the next 4 or 5 years. So this gets at least us a smaller multi-purpose piece of equipment that we can do a bunch of things with. Which
And-
is, I think, why we're looking at replacing it.
So you're replacing the motor or the whole mower?
I think we're probably looking at replacing the whole mower, replacing the whole unit.
So is that headed over to CIP or?
Yep. Yep, I've been trying to get Jay to bring that to CIP for the last couple months, but
You said a motor for that is $3,000?
It's gotta be more than that.
no, I don't know what the motor is. Last I looked, we couldn't get one for 3 months. I was looking at an alternative supplier because that seemed kind of crazy because it's just like a, 30 horsepower Kohler motor, so it's not anything particularly unusual. But there was a significant backlog with getting them through Steiner.
So you don't think you would replace it? How much was the cost of the motor?
How about we sit there and ask Eric to do some, like, send us an email on this topic so that we can get a good answer, because it sounds like Eric wants to go to CIP for the whole mower. And I'm sure Jay is trying to repair that thing anyway, so. Can you do that for us, Eric, and send us an email?
So what exactly do you want? You don't want it to go to CIP, you want us to send you the information? What
No,
exactly?
I want it to go to CIP. I want it to go to CIP because everything should go through CIP.
Everything should go to CIP, yeah?
But it doesn't mean that we can't have the information. Provide us what you're going to submit to CIP so we understand it.
Okay,
And just the motor for that's gonna run about $3,000. Just the motor.
You looked it up, Adrian?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but if the value of the mower is $30,000 and you can fix it for $3,000.
No, it's 30,000 for a new one, and the
Right.
upgrades, hydraulic upgrades and stuff like that's what you're putting money into. The new ones are definitely better than that thing.
Yeah,
And that
but
thing's a dinosaur.
yeah, but all those Steiners are really good, Adrian.
I know, but I mean, it's got some years on it,
I don't think they use it very much.
Well, I think to Eric's point, if we got a new one, we'd get the attachments with it so they could use it more.
I wonder if you can use the attachments that we have on the new model.
all of the attachments will work on the new model. We probably would replace our finish mower head, because that thing's kind of getting beat anyway. Jay was talking about that even before we started talking about, before they blew the engine on the Steiner. So yeah, some of it we would need anyway, some of it we're keeping and we'll use our existing, we'll certainly use our existing blower head. That's only, 3 years old and that's in perfect shape.
Okay. Any
All
other
right, we'll
questions?
get you
for
that
Eric?
information.
Any other questions for Eric? Anybody? No? We're gonna go on to item 10, old business. 10A, the status of the community center RFP signed. We're having a groundbreaking the 18th at 12 p.m.
Yep, Adrian, you want anything to add to that?
No, we agreed to, so the final bids actually came in over what we were expecting. The contractor sat down and we went over a list of things that we could adjust. So we did, and we've got right now, what we've agreed to is we agreed to release the package so that we can do foundation, plumbing work that needs to get done, in ground, electrical that needs to get done in ground, and general site work. So that gets us going. And then we're going to keep working on the other contract pieces to try to get the number down. As of right now, we only have a buffer of I kid you not, of about 40,000. So, all said and done, we're really close. I mean, granted, we're lucky it's design build, and we've got some really good. The contractor's been really good to work with, so they're really going above and beyond. I think that also helps with their town residents. So they're very much aware. So,
10B, a discussion of blight and level of involvement. I know, Eric, you had some of the discussion during your report, or is there anything else you want to add to it?
Not at this time.
Okay. 10C, stiff account update.
Stiff account is a work in progress.
Okay.
But the account is all set up.
All right.
Um,
So explain that to us. So I'm sorry, Paula. So you have the stiff account set up?
So
You
the
realize-
and it's
stiff
already
account-
funded.
eventually got set up. I mean, it took us probably 6 submissions before they accepted our application for a stiff account. But anyway, and then we thought we had the correct protocol for transferring money into it. It's kind of Byzantine. You tell the bank you're transferring the money, then you tell the state how much you're transferring, and then you transfer the money. But the state has already showed you that the money is going into your account, the amount you said is putting into your account. So it looks like the money's already there when the money's actually not there because it hasn't been transferred, because M&T kind of sucks. So we struggled with that. We thought we had transferred a bunch of money when we really didn't. And what was really annoying is we did the $1 test transfer, and lo and behold, it showed up in our account. But it showed up in our account because we told them to expect a $1 deposit, and therefore they showed it as it had $1 in it.
Right.
So
I
we've
can
got it to work now.
have we considered revisiting M&T as our primary bank?
Yep, I think that's a discussion, we might need to have, because I am incredibly unsatisfied with our commercial or our business manager that we have at M&T.
All right, so that's on the agenda, which you have that on the Board of Finance agenda, right?
That's not on the Board of Finance agenda, but I've asked the treasurer to review that. I will speak to the Board of Finance about that.
Okay.
We would have to do some kind of formal process if we're going to switch banks. And I don't know what that would look like at this point, but M&T certainly has not been a great institution.
Well, we did it once before, so it won't be the end of the world.
Yep.
Okay, 10D, Long Hill Memorial Field signage. Paula, I'm wondering if we might be able to push this one off.
I think it'll be, well, I don't know, Eric,
Go ahead. Is
quick
it gonna be
based
quick?
on,
Go ahead.
I think it's tough to do because it brings up problems with the town sign regs. It's not public interest signage. I think we can put up one 32 square foot sign there, and that's it, without changing our sign regs.
Wait,
period.
before we get into this, Paula, do you have enough energy to have this conversation, or?
okay, for the record.
I'm
you're
just
always-
checking.
You're always in a hurry, so don't make this seem like,
I'm trying to be supportive here. I just want to make sure you're going to make it through the executive session. That's all.
I want to make sure that you'll stay awake because you're a lot older than I am. So that's, but anyway, so we could probably push this off till next month. But Eric, in the meantime, have you started to have that conversation? Well, you and I had that quick conversation talking about the regulation, right?
Right. I had the conversation with Jed, and that was Jed's conclusion that our current regulations allow us we could put one sign up there, no bigger than 32 square feet, period. Anything more than that, you'd have to go back to the zoning commission and request a change in the signage regulations, which I think they might consider.
Let's go request a change to the signing regulations, and then we'll move forward with this.
Okay. So Eric, you and I will talk about that at another time.
How big of a sign do you need?
Well, this
It's
was
not
this
just
one,
one sign.
this went back to, I don't know if you were on that meeting, Adrian. This was a couple of meetings ago. We talked about people advertising their businesses on the fence. So we wanted to measure the fence to see how many signs we could fit and then start putting the word out. but Eric found out that the regulation is only allowing one sign at a certain size.
4x8.
All right, so it's something that it's probably is a good idea, as long as the signs don't go to the ground, like Eric said, and cause bigger problems in the next flood, right? So, or we try different types of material, but let's sit there and get through the first part, Paula, and then we'll sit there and see if we can put a program together to support the rec commission a little bit.
However, so this still doesn't answer, so I will answer back to how this whole discussion started, or maybe I should tell them to wait. When we sat in our meeting with Vale, they wanted to put signs up, so.
You tell Val they can do non-permanent signage while they're there, and that we're working on signage regulations for the fence.
Okay, so just to be clear, while they're there, so they take it down after their practices and after their games. Okay,
Correct.
all right, got it.
Okay, 10E revised mapping for community center. Eric, do we need to go over that?
No, that's in your packet. I'm just giving that to you because that is the official form that got approved by the commission.
Okay, 10F, the contract for planner services. Do we need to review that?
You should probably authorize me to sign that if you so chose. So this conforms to the purchasing policy of the town. It did go to RFP for planner services. The zoning committee, or the committee that you authorized to evaluate the proposals came back with this. We settled on a contract with Tai Chi, specifically with John G, which is one of their principal planners. And I need to be authorized to sign it. I think we met all the criteria. I think he'll be a really good fit. It's basically a 2-year contract because that's what it's going to take us to get through the full plan of conservation and development. And then we make a decision at that point whether we're going to go forward in future years with them as a planning service.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem with that contract? Okay. Does someone want to make a motion to give Eric authorization to approve and sign that contract?
So I make a motion that we give Eric Anderson the right to sign the town contract for planner services.
Second, yeah.
Okay. Further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Or nothing. Okay. One second. 10G grant for state local bridge program. So we need to give you authorization to apply for that grant, or?
No, the grant's already applied for. We already got the grant. I was gonna try to be far enough along to ask for a decision about how to proceed with that, but I'm not there yet. So punt that one till next month.
Okay, item 11 on the agenda, new business, 11A, life insurance MOA with the town administrator.
So basically, the treasurer approached me and said we have an issue in that both myself and Jay Tuttle technically only have $50,000 in life insurance coverage, but our contracts state we have 100, which means from her perspective, that's a $50,000 liability if either one of us should croak. So in my case, I had chosen the $50,000 limit as opposed to 100,000 because it simplifies the paperwork and what I have to file with the IRS. but I need a memorandum of understanding signed between myself and you to execute that. And Jeff, I sent you a copy of that and asked you whether you had a problem with that. I would just have the board authorize you to sign an MOU to reduce the amount of my life insurance from what's in my contract from 100,000 to 50,000. We both sign it and that liability is done. And then we got to figure out with Jay whether he wants to do the paperwork and keep 100,000. And we're working on that now.
And just from my standpoint, why would you not just go out and get $100,000 policy?
Why do I care? I don't have any dependents.
I
It
know,
doesn't matter.
I know you look at it in a way that you're going to die, and who cares? You don't need the $50,000 when you're dead. But you know, the plot at Townsend Cemetery is going to cost you something.
Yeah, besides, they're gonna raise the prices if they have to grind those trees, so.
Right.
So okay. Then you need to get with Dennis O'Brien on this if that's the direction you want to go. All right.
I think he's already looked at that.
He's got the memorandum of understanding.
I think so. I'm not absolutely positive, but I think I ran the, I try to run every.
Eric Anderson, want less insurance signed.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty cut and dry thing.
Yeah. Jeff, I actually thought, weren't you the beneficiary in that?
Yes. I don't think I was, but that is interesting. I would donate it right to the piano for the community room, maybe 2 or 3 of them. So
Would you sprinkle my ashes over the keys?
yes.
So everybody gets dusty fingers when they play?
Yes. Listen, then we need to sit there and
Just let him get the MOU signed. I don't, let him do it.
That's fine. Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay. I make a motion that we allow Eric Anderson to get a memorandum of understanding to reduce his life insurance to $50,000.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll send you, if you don't have it, I'll send you another copy of the MOU. We can both sign it, move on. Okay.
Let's sit there and continue. 11B, the end of our personnel policy discussion. I say we table that to the next meeting. 11C, a long-term disability policy for employees.
Okay, so we currently maintain long-term disability policies for employees. One of the things that was brought to my attention by the treasurer is that we have absolutely zero documentation saying when we started doing that. It's not baked into our personnel policy. It's not baked into any of our contracts. But I mean, certainly I knew when I got hired that the long-term long-term disability policy was part of that package. I don't think it's something we need to discuss today, but we either have to make our documents account for that, or we have to stop providing that. One or the other, because other than that, we're supplying something that we have no contractual basis for. So I think that the next time we discuss personnel stuff, we should consider that one way or the other.
Okay. So your recommendation is to remove long-term disability as a benefit.
No, my recommendation is to keep it. Because as we continue to transition people to to not having a large bank of sick time, but to instead just have one pool of PTO time, it becomes more critical for employees to have some sort of long-term thing to deal with, major issues. So I think it's actually probably getting more important, given the way we're going with the personnel policies. So I wouldn't change it, but it's ultimately your decision as a board where you want to go with that.
All right, we'll come back to that. 11D, the steep grant approval resolution.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this to you really quickly. If you guys all agree with it, then you can adopt it and we'll clone your signatures on it. It's due in about 3 days, so a decision has to be made today, one way or the other. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen as a legislative body of the town of Andover hereby authorizes Eric Anderson, town administrator, to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said 2023 steep grant with the state of Connecticut and accept such grant if awarded. Improvements include addition of 3 pickleball courts with fencing and lighting, playground optimized for 2 to 10-year-old children, soccer field lighting, water and electrical service to the softball fields, paving the upper parking lots to increase access. Award amount requested $500,000 from the state, and the town will contribute $100,000 to the project. Adopted and signed this day of blah, 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 2023 by the Board of Selectmen of the town of Andover. That's the grant application. So basically a maximum grant to light the soccer field, add 3 pickleball courts with lighting and fencing and a good playground, pave the parking lot to make it convenient to the pickleball courts, and also overflow parking for the soccer. That would also get you an accessible access to the pickleball court because we would pave the walkway down to the pickleball court, so it would be handicapped accessible. And that's basically it.
I make a motion to authorize Eric Anderson to move forward with this steep grant application.
Second that.
All right, further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Eric, when that's due in 3 days, you said?
Yeah, it's due on the 18th.
Okay, is it,
Friday.
I saw there was a letter from the rec commission supporting this. Do you need more letters to go with it? I know you asked me and I didn't get that to you.
The more letters, the better. I've asked a large number of people for letters. From the Board of Selectmen, it will simply be the resolution. Planning and zoning will submit one. We got one for Frog. I asked one for both our legislators. So we'll have a pile. But what I really want is just to buy in from community groups that use the field saying, hey, this is something that we do want and we would use.
I think the commissioner of the pickleball league, the co-commissioners should sit there and write letters.
Sure.
I have asked the pickleball mafia to supply us letters. So
Perfect.
far, they're holding
Excellent.
up. though.
I think that's awesome.
Scott, I guess that'd be you, right?
Oh, and Paula, co-commissioners.
Really?
Oh, you didn't know that Paula goes down there? Oh, yeah.
Scott plays a lot more than I do. He's a lot better than I am.
Is that still going on?
Yeah.
What days?
Huh? Scott's traveling to other towns.
I know. He's like a celebrity in the unit.
What days is this going on in Andover?
Tuesdays and Fridays,
At what time?
5 to 7.
Okay.
I gotta
So,
bring my 80s gear for you, Paul.
don't you get all the Amazon freebie stuff to test? I mean, I would assume pickleball is a big deal and they'd be sending you.
It is available,
Yeah.
but I've got headbands and wristbands for Paul and I. You think I'm kidding? I'm serious.
I'm getting a Richard Simmons,
I
like,
think you should, I was
It-
thinking average Joe's as far as, that's what I was thinking.
It's exactly like average dose.
Next thing we do is dodgeball tournament.
Oh, that would be a blast
All right.
for charity.
Yeah, so let's move on to the 11E tax collectors MOU.
That's signed based on what I presented to the board at the last meeting. That's signed in place with the unit. Kate is on board. She will take over officially in 16 days as the tax collector, as Eileen is retiring as of August 31st of this month.
11F Homeland Security grants to the Department of Emergency Services.
So I threw this in the packet to review. This comes to us every 2 years. Basically, we're delegating DEMS as our emergency management agency to deal with a whole bunch of things that we don't have the resources to deal with ourselves. So that requires a resolution and a signature by Jeff as the CEO. So I think you should all kind of, that's why I put the whole thing in here, so you could all understand if you authorize Jeff to sign it, what he's signing and what the resolution is.
Anybody have any problems with it?
Nope.
Yeah.
Do you want a motion, Eric, or can we just move on?
I think it could
Somebody make a motion.
could just make a motion to sign the Department of Emergency Management certificate.
Somebody make a motion because I have to sign it.
help me out here. Okay, I make a motion
Authorize.
for us to sign the Department of Emergency Services. Is that what it is?
Management services.
Management Services, is it called a contract or
The grant application.
our
Yeah.
grant application?
Perfect.
I'll second that, Paul.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, 11G speed sign.
Okay, so as you know, we had bought a sign originally for Lake Road, which we used for exactly 3 months before somebody smashed it into pieces with baseball bat. Then we didn't have one for a while, and we got 2 more for a grant program that we finally put up about 3 months ago. One of them is still up and functioning. The other one, initially just the GPS unit got stolen. They cut the wires to the solar panel in the battery and just stole the unit. It got disposed of somewhere in Lebanon. We had GPS tracking on it. The state police went out and looked for it and couldn't find it. We know a rough area, but it's somebody threw it in this giant briar patch. And then Jay Tuttle went out and looked for it and spent an hour or 2 poking around trying to find it. So we have not been able to find it. In the intervening time last week, somebody came back and stole the rest of the unit. So they stole the post and the solar panel and the 25-mile-an-hour speed sign. And then they ran over and pushed down the stop sign at the intersection of Gilead Road and Juravati/Cone Road. This is a problem. We've replaced that sign numerous times. We replace it, once or twice a year because people are unhappy that it used to be a 2-way stop and now it's a 4-way stop, even though it's been that way for 15 years. They keep stealing the sign because they don't want to stop there going through
So
that.
why don't we just put a trail camera over there?
Well, that's what we're talking about doing. I don't think it's going to do us any good with the speed sign. That's well and truly gone now. I don't know. It's kind of annoying that we have to deal with that, but I think we do.
Does the town insurance cover any of that?
We're going to put in an insurance claim. I'm still waiting on the information from the grant for the exact cost of the unit. So in the specification, so we can submit the insurance claim for it. But I think they're around 6,000, given considering what we got. It's just kind of annoying that, now we've had, of the 3 units that we've had, one got smashed by vandals and one got stolen. So it's a little bit depressing in that sense.
Maybe we just make it a policy when we put one in, we spend $100 on a trail camera, call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad plan. Yep. So
Okay,
that's all I wanted to say about that. Yep.
11H, acknowledge town resident Bill Penn.
So I just want to acknowledge the fact that Bill Penn just rode completely across the country from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast in about 70 days. One of his lifelong goals, he and an English friend of his basically bike packed their way across the country. So that was pretty cool, and I put a picture of that in my administrator's report. I'd just like to acknowledge that as a town resident that did something pretty cool that we can all aspire to, or some of us may aspire to. That's
Okay.
it.
Congratulations to Bill. That's awesome that he reached that goal. It's a pretty cool accomplishment. Item 12, approval of meeting minutes for the July 10th, 2023 regular meeting.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of July 10th, 2023 regular meeting.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. 13, tax collectors report. Anything?
Page 80 of your packet, there is one refund of excess payments to Peter and Victoria Haggerty for $758.82.
Why are the total refunds
Is that in the-
$4,043.31?
Oops, did I miss a previous page?
I don't know, but it doesn't add up.
Yep, no, sure doesn't. I don't have an answer for you. Unless Kate missed a page. Which I suppose is possible.
Do you want us to make a motion to approve the Haggertys, or do you want to just wait on all of it till next month?
I would wait on all of it till I get a little clarification on what that is.
Okay. I have no problem doing that. It'll help Paula in her rest pattern. Everything else good on the tax collectors report? We collected, that's a terrible June collection. Is that right? That can't be right. Wow.
What are you looking at?
Page 82 and 83.
Yeah, June, we don't get much in. It's really July 1 to August 1 that we get the majority of our bucks in.
That's just awful low. I'd like to know that in comparison to all the other months, but we'll do that later. Okay.
But if you look at the dashboard as of 8/1, you can see what was basically what came in essentially on time. In other words, by 8/1.
Oh, I know the July collections are significant. I get that. It's 25, well, more than 25% of our total number, but $18,000 for a department's collection in that 1 month, that is real low. Like, what are the efforts to collect any of the outstanding numbers that are out here? I mean, there's a lot of other questions that I have in my head.
Well, we farm out the collection though, so.
Well, we farm out the delinquency stuff.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can't call somebody that's not so far delinquent, you haven't sent. I mean, what do you do? All you're doing is just an order taker, then you're just waiting for people to show up.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, so we'll move on because we can get stuck here for too long.
Paul, you doing okay?
Item 14, department reports. I saw the assessor's report in there. Adjustments. Public Works. So Public Works is definitely doing some of the drainage there out in front of Lakeview Lakeview. And Eric, are you planning on working on the drainage on that road? Or just the,
Lakeview? No, I think just that one basin at the end right now.
anybody have any questions related to any of the department reports? Okay. If that's the case, let's move on to item 15, correspondence. Eric, I'm assuming there's none.
We did get one piece of correspondence. We got a thank you note from a couple people relative to the pickleball court. Dear Board of Selectmen, Dave and I would like to thank you for supporting our pickleball program from February to August. A great time was had by all. Many players shared how much they enjoyed playing at AES and are looking forward to returning this fall. Thanks again, Dave and Grace.
Okay.
So that's my correspondence.
Okay. I am going to move item 17, public speak up. Before we move to executive session. So we're going to get started. Diane Grenier, you're number one on my checkerboard.
Unmute me there, okay. Just two things. One, I keep hearing about the Long Hill Ball Field. That's really the name of that field, is the Veterans Memorial Park.
Okay.
It's not
Right.
Long Hill, and it should be referred to as such. The second question is, do we ever answer the question about, is it a senior center / community center, just a community center? Is it going to be a senior center? What's the actual title of that building going to be?
We're going to leave it blank because planning and zoning won't let us put up a sign.
It's going to be the Andover Community Center with a major focus on senior activities.
Does that have any effect on future grants that go to senior centers when we're not a senior center?
Well, Diane, we will sit there and rename this thing as soon as we know what we want to do. We don't have a
Well,
name.
I just want to make sure that we're not. shooting
We're
ourselves
gonna
in
get
the
a
foot.
sign that flips, so on Tuesdays it'll be one thing, on Wednesdays it'll be another.
Like I said, this is probably a question for Dennis or somebody. I just don't want to, when you're naming
I
it,
think-
it's something as simple as that, you don't want to,
So we agree with you. There has been much discussion, Diane. We're just trying to figure out how to get it to sound right.
okay,
Well,
It's
with
just
both
one-
names. So listen, if you have a suggestion that includes community center and senior, throw it out there. We're open to suggestions.
the Diane Grenier Community Center, that's a senior. Yeah. The other question, moving on,
And therein is our problem. It just doesn't flow out of the mouth.
flows out of my mouth, okay?
We'll figure it out.
Figure it out, but I mean, just want to make sure that I raise
We
that
will
point.
make sure that Dennis weighs in on that so that legally we're set for all future grant applications.
Thank you, Jeff. The other question, do we have an estimate of how long it's going to take to build that building? So I can tell the piano man, are we talking 5 months, 6 months, year,
Our goal is to be done going into the spring.
going into the spring?
So
No,
what's that, Eric?
really? Our goal would be in by a year from today.
You're crazy.
Okay,
It should be done by April realistically.
Okay,
We want to make sure it's done before Paula is officially considered a senior.
Well, she's got to take a nap and we'll wake her up in the spring, like, what do you call that? Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, wow.
And who would your prince be?
I thought you would like the Disney.
I
I
was
thought you liked the
thinking-
Disney reference.
I was thinking Yogi Bear. That was.
So we can talk about Beauty and the Beast, but I won't be brutal to name the beast. So
Okay,
move
so
on.
the
Move
public
on.
speak. Let's go, Diane.
Okay, that was it. That was my questions. And thank you guys very much for all you do for us. Thank you.
Linda Fish.
All set.
All right, Ann Cremay.
Hi, I was wondering with that grant that you're applying for pickleball courts and lighting the soccer fields and so on. Where are the pickle courts gonna be? I didn't
Riverside
know where they
Drive.
are.
The plan is for the parking lot in the back of the ball field or Veterans Memorial Ball Field back parking lot in that area. Ann.
Okay. Okay, great.
Across from the
And
softball.
then a playground you mentioned, is that down in that area too?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Joanne Ebert.
Thanks, Jeff. Yep, I just have a couple things. I hope that somehow we can name the community center with some kind of slash of senior/community center as well. Secondly, if your executive session involves the union negotiations that I sat on the committee for, I hope I can sit and listen to your discussion to go over that. If it's something that I wasn't part of, then of course, I wouldn't expect that. And then I just wanted to weigh in quickly on the topic that Eric brought to you tonight regarding the long-term disability policy for employees. I hadn't previously heard that the town had one, so I'm gonna contact Eric just to get a little information. My personal, and if it's been in existence, I understand that, and then you'll all weigh in, but for the most part, towns offer that as a, employees generally take that out themselves. If they want to purchase something, if they have some kind of a non-safe job, or they're worried about getting hurt on the job. And also kind of why I was against putting that whole paid time off thing together, because people that work in towns generally will accumulate their sick time for things of this nature. Myself, I think I have like 10 months of sick time saved up in case I ever have to have surgery or something. I had sick time and then I had vacation time. I've always kind of been against combining it. So just my thoughts on that. I don't know that it exists already. Eric says it does, so I'll take him at his word, but I've never seen an expense, being on.
Joanne, it's long-term disability.
Sorry, what did I say?
Well, you said 10 months. It's long-term disability. So I'll give example. Let's say if somebody in Public Works gets injured, they, at home, right? Not on the job, but because of their injury, they can no longer come back to Public Works. I have an uncle that this happened to, and it basically makes you whole until you turn 65. It can be
I
very,
understand what it
very
is.
long-term. It's not 10 months. It could be 10 years. Doesn't matter.
Okay, no,
Long
I
term,
understand
long
what
term.
it is. I work with things of that nature too, but thank you, Adrian, for the clarification. So we want to purchase that for town employees in case they get hurt at home, and then we can pay them. Okay. Thank
We
you. for-
we don't pay them. The insurance pays them.
Right,
Well,
so you want the
listen,
town of
listen,
Andover
listen,
to.
We're not,
Right,
we-
we're.
I'm not
we need
advocating one way or the other.
clarification. We need clarification on this whole thing. And then
Yeah,
we'll-
no, Adrian interrupted and I appreciate any information that's given to me to clarify it. No, I was just saying I was gonna look into it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine McGaldy Lewis.
Hi, this is nothing that you have to answer right now, perhaps put it on for the next meeting. But I would like to discuss we have a blight ordinance for homes, and I would like to see the same thing apply to businesses. Because I see Andover Plaza as a blight. But I would just like to see if we do have that, can't we do that same thing for businesses as we do for homes? That's it.
All right, thank you.
It's a good question.
Anyone else that I missed on there that wanted to add to public speak? Okay, if not, everyone, thank you for attending our meeting. Let's, before I go, one last thing. The union negotiations, does anyone of the board have an issue with inviting Joanne Ebert in for the union negotiation discussion?
Is there anything we actually really need to discuss?
Nope.
The board has agreed to the, kind of the last set of conditions. And we don't have a contract document to look at this point, so.
Yeah.
Unless you have something specific to ask me, I don't have any real discussion topic for that, unless there's something you want to ask me.
No, nothing that I would need Joanne for if I wanted to ask you about union negotiations. Okay. All right, so we are going to move into executive session and invite Eric Anderson and Attorney O'Brien, even though he cannot say a word to us for some technical reason, but he can at least listen to our conversation. So
What, we forget to pay his bill or something?
I don't know. I think it's a senior moment is what I believe. So
Does anybody know what the code is to unmute from a cell phone? I don't remember it off the top
I
of
think
my
it's
head.
star 8 or star
Sorry
6.
to interrupt you guys. I had asked if I could just sit in, but now I think you guys have decided you don't want me to sit in, correct?
that's
Because
correct.
there's nothing to discuss.
That's-
I just wanted to see your process since I've taken interest in, but thank you. I understand.
You're welcome. All right, thank you. All right, so do we know how to get Dennis to talk? But Eric, can you stop the recording? And well, before you stop the recording, I'll make a motion that we go to executive session at 9:23 PM.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have Dennis and we